Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. In today's video, as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about a potential early winter storm that could be occurring across the United States. Now, I want to preface this video right away. The chances of this are still very, very slim, but I know that on the weather community, and especially on my weather channel, what we really get excited about is the potential for winter storms, especially early on in the season. So I want to give you a heads up. Again, not really a video to prepare or anything like that, because this system is just too far out and too uncertain to say anything about it in terms of preparing. But it's a system that has the potential to develop into an early winter storm, and I'll give you a few reasons why I am particularly thinking that it has a good chance of occurring despite there being a heat wave across a good portion of the United States. So in order to give you a better picture of what this system and what this potential winter storm will be developing in, what conditions it will have, we need to take a look at what we will be looking at the next few days and weeks across the United States. I'm going to run this through very, very briefly just to show you. This is an anomaly graph. Where the temperatures are red, it shows above average temperatures for this time of the year. Where they're blue, it shows colder. Now, again, we just got done with a really nice cool down, really big cool down across the eastern United States. That thing is now pretty much gone. We are beginning to see above average temperatures. And notice that the colors are extreme. These are potentially off the charts. We're going to be experiencing tons of warmth, a lot of warmth. And you may be wondering, how on earth is a winter storm going to develop in a heat wave like this? Well, the winter storm isn't going to develop across the central United States, that's for sure. It's not going to bring snow into Illinois and Missouri. If you clicked on that thinking in this video that we'll be talking about a winter storm in Illinois and Missouri, well then you might have gotten your hopes a little too high there. We will be talking about a winter storm that could be potentially occurring around this time frame, the September 20th, 21st, 22nd, a little earlier maybe that weekend, across the northwestern United States. So let's begin on Friday, the September 19th. Again, pretty far out, almost a week, a little bit more than a week out. And the reason I was showing you all those temperatures is because they will be playing an extremely important role, especially the fact that they are so above average. So right now we're looking at the GFS, the MSLP precipitation chart. Yeah, I don't know if you heard that voice crack. MSLP and precipitation chart. And this shows us basically the precipitation rate, but also all these little squiggly lines show us the isobars and the different thermodynamic temperature bars. Basically, it's a map that we can easily track weather systems, cold fronts, and their development. Notice that across the United States as of Friday, there isn't much going on. If you think this is that winter storm, no, it's not. It spawns from a cold front that happens to move through into an extremely warm air mass. So let me just draw this out for you. Right now, across, at this point, not right now, at this point in the time frame around the 19th to the 20th, we have tons of warm air that already has made its way and is very, very well settled across a good portion of the eastern United States, really far north. And let me just tell you that the precipitable water content, so the kind of the amount of water there is in an atmosphere if you were to sponge it out, is going to be extremely, extremely high across anywhere east of the Rockies. Honestly, even the Rockies themselves. And it's going to be really, really moist very far north. And again, it's going to be well entrenched at this point because we're going to be seeing a really large heat wave all into next week across pretty much all of the United States. Now, what that means is all it takes is a little bit of a cold front, right? A normal cold front, doesn't have to be extreme, to bring some slightly cooler temperatures. And the models have been hinting at this for a few days. They backed off of it yesterday and the day before that, and now they're back onto it, showing it. So again, we will have to see whether or not this happens. But no, across the northwestern United States, what we see is a cold front from a system moving through. Immediately, what we notice with it is that there are already snow bands occurring across the mountainous areas. There's obviously rain as well. But with this low pressure and a high pressure on the backside of it, there's enough cold air tapped into it where it could actually create a little bit of snow. Now, again, as I mentioned, on the backside of this thing, so low pressures all work very similarly. There's a low pressure, and look at that L, so slanted. There's a low pressure. On the underside of the low pressure is usually where it's the warmer side. On the backside of it, at least across the U.S. and the northern hemisphere, this is how they work. And on the backside of it is the cooler temperatures and the deformation band, as they say. Here's usually the cold front and the warm front. So the warmer the air is on the underside of this, and the colder the air is on the other side, on the northwestern side of this low pressure, determines how quickly and how strong these low pressures can get. It's no coincidence that before all these massive Arctic blasts that we get across the United States, there is usually a massive snowstorm out ahead of it, because that's where they like to form. And in this case, it's not going to be any different, other than the fact that we may not have as much cold air, but we will have tons and tons of warm air. And notice that this low pressure begins to intensify. We have increasing winds from the south. Right there, look at that, becoming more and more circular. Now, the model doesn't quite fully develop it into a strong system, at least the GFS in particular here doesn't. But again, it won't take much for this thing to spin up into a strong cyclone. But look, as I play this forward, look what the GFS does. So now this is Sunday into September. Again, tons of warm, moist air to the south of it. The only problem with this might be the lack of colder air towards the north, kind of not being able to provide that baroclinic zone that these storms thrive in. But no, it still develops into a system just a little later on with a classic comma-shaped low pressure right there. And even despite us being in a heat wave, this thing ends up producing snow across Ontario and into Canada. And again, if this were to occur a little further west and south, this could be a lot more of an impactful winter storm. And again, it's very far out. It's extremely far out, but I do want to give you a heads up. You can already bet that this cold front on the backside of the system would probably be a very powerful one, as there's going to be extreme amounts of heat and humidity, almost like a summer-like setup with this. So that is definitely going to be a concern. So again, the pivotal part of this system will be the cold air and that cold front. How strong that is and where that exact placement is going to determine everything, because all the other ingredients are there. This is like having a brownie mix, and the only thing you're missing right now is the butter. Everything is there. This thing just needs to be kind of put together. And do note that the European model, which we are now looking at, does deliver around that same time frame, a little later than the GFS, a few days later, does deliver a cold front, a pretty powerful one as well. And but the only difference is that it's, instead of kind of going more south like the GFS, it has a more eastward direction to it. So it kind of skims through these areas, still develops a system. You can see a pretty nasty and powerful one, but further east, where again, because of the warm temperatures, there isn't really enough cold air to develop a winter storm, but it still develops a system, a very powerful fall storm, and delivers a cold blast behind that. So there's a high pressure behind that driving it as well. So again, the models have been hinting on this, at this on and off now, and we will have to wait and see what they exactly do. But I wanted to give you an update on this. One more thing I want to show you is the 2-meter temperature anomalies again, but now after the system has developed and is in the middle of developing. And notice that what we see is, again, a little bit of that cool air according to the GFS, extremely warm temperatures to the south of it, potentially maxing out the anomaly graph there. But what you will quickly realize is the lack of it, the lack of cold air. While there's a lot of heat to the south, to the west, and even to the northwest of it, which usually is not what these systems have, again, it's going to be kind of a winter storm developing in a heat wave, so it's going to be an interesting setup. And I said winter storm, I should just say storm, because the winter side of it's still undetermined. How strong this blue air mass is, so again, how cold it is behind this system, will determine a lot about this system. It's got all the ingredients on the southern side, it just needs those cold winter ingredients to really come through. But you can see it's a powerful one. It's warping these colors completely into its center right there. You could, I mean, if you were to take a look at this map and you are accustomed with weather maps to an extent, you would immediately be able to say that the weather center is right there, where that cold meets that warm, and that cold front being whipped around. And again, the only potential impedance on this system would be the lack of cold air, which we'll have to wait and see. Though again, this is more cold air than what the models showed a few days ago, so we will have to wait and see. Regardless, I think that there probably will be a lot of warm air during this fall, but again, because we have such warm air, often when you do get that eventual cold front that come through, we do spawn an early fall storm, and I think that's why we have a threat for that this year, and why I'm so keen on watching this one. Normally I'd be like, nah, it's just the models, but I think there are some things about this weather setup that make it more interesting. Okay, that's basically all I have for you guys, and I'll catch you on the next episode. See ya. Bye.